kind of investments you need to make to do that? And do you wonder if it's worth it? Perhaps if you are here today, those are some of the questions in your mind. I can't answer those questions for you, but I'm very happy to be here to share with you the experiences that I have of helping small cultural industries in France, in the Loire Valley. That's a picture of the Loire River, to develop new international markets and to discover that this can be profitable for them in more ways than one. This is my very first visit to Taiwan. It's also my very first visit to Asia. It seems like this river is a long, long way away today. I would just like to say that I am very impressed by everything I've seen here, and particularly by the quality of the people, cultural and very kind. Meaningful products are precious. Meaningful products are valuable. Cultural products are valuable because they support local businesses. And they are valuable because they bring meaningful products into people's lives and into their homes. And in that way, I believe that they are very important, and that they are very important to share. Fine craft products are also a luxury today in this globalized world. Products that tell a story. And what is good is that they are very often an affordable luxury. They don't cost huge amount of money, but they bring a lot of pleasure. And this is true particularly for products like food and wine and tea, but also for decorative elements that you may have in your home. That is a very important element too about cultural industries. The culturally charged products also help to promote understanding between people. Today, the opportunity that we have with the internet culture to promote and to research about our products all over the world is incredible. It's such a huge change. The exchange, the communications that we can have with people across the world. It's an extraordinary revolution, really, to be able to have that kind of quality of contact with all places. Okay, first of all, I would like to tell you more about where I come from. You will obviously understand from our previous speech and also from your own experience that place is of ultimate importance in this issue. I'm actually British. I was born in London, but I've been living in France for all of my adult life. Initially, I lived in Paris, and I moved to the Loire Valley just under 20 years ago. This is the castle of Saumur. It's one of the castles of the Loire Valley. It's a medieval castle, and it's very important symbolically. An interesting fact about this small town where I live, it's very small, it's about 30,000 inhabitants, is that a local product also shares this name. Because of controlled origin policies in France, which you may have heard about, the wine from the region around Saumur uses the name Saumur on the wine bottles. This means that our small town, Saumur, travels on the bottles all over the world. It's an important element. This is the same you will have heard for the region of Bordeaux. The city of Bordeaux also is a wine name, and the region of Champagne, for example. So in this case, these cultural industries are very important in branding the places they come from. These are the vineyards of the Loire Valley, which I will be talking about a bit more later on. But the area is a very important wine-producing area. It's the third largest in France. This is a beautiful abbey, which is the largest abbey complex in Europe. It's also the most carefully restored building. It's very near the area of Saumur, and I do a lot of work in this place because it has become a cultural center, and it also has hotel, restaurant, and conference center. And we use this place to develop cultural industries in certain ways, which I will talk about later on. This is the cloisters, the walking area in the abbey. This picture, it represents part of cultural industries in the Loire Valley, which are to do with heritage. This is made by a joiner. It's a part of the structure of a roof. Restoration of heritage in the Loire Valley is a very big area of business for these small cultural industries that will mend and preserve the heritage. The Loire Valley is actually a place which represents a lot of the cultural industries of France in wine, food, tourism, heritage, and also there are a lot of fine arts and fine crafts in the Loire Valley. This is an elephant in the city of Nantes. The city of Nantes is at the end of the Loire. I just have to do a little map for you because I didn't put a map on my presentation. So if I stand like this, you can see this is the shape of France. And in this case, my right arm is the Loire River, okay? And Paris is somewhere here near my heart, okay? It's a not very precise geography, but it gives you an idea. So this elephant is part of the cultural development of the city of Nantes. In the city of Nantes, we have a famous writer, which you may have heard of. His name is Jules Verne, and he wrote 80 Days Around the World and A Voyage to the Center of the Earth. And this elephant is to remind us of one of his other books about crossing India in a mechanical elephant. And it's very popular in Nantes. Okay, before you start, this is the most important thing. This is what I spend time helping businesses to do. And this is where you start everything. It's all about vision and all about strategy. How do you imagine the future of your company? What products do you imagine that you will be selling in 5 years, 10 years' time? Who are you selling your products to now? And who would you like to be selling them to? Who is your ideal client? How do you imagine your company development? What areas are you most fond of? Which products are your favorite products? People generally are better at promoting and selling things that they love and feel passionate about. It's very important to have this kind of discussion with yourself before you start. It's very important also to take into account people's own their own ambitions. what they really want to achieve. It's very important to have all these elements. These are smaller sized businesses, and everything must be in harmony. You must be in harmony with your values and in harmony with where you want to go. There are some clouds in the sky here, but in Britain we say every cloud has a silver lining. There is opportunity in every occasion. So, first of all, you clarify your vision. Then you need to identify products with added value. You need to have premium products to export. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a little bit of delicious Taiwan tea. If you're going to go and take your products to new markets, perhaps very far away, they have to bring in revenue for you. They have to be high premium products. The third thing that you need to think about, first of all, is to be sure that you can deliver the goods. There are different situations in which this might be hard for you. You may have a limited production capacity for certain items. You need to take this into account. You may also you need to adapt. If you have a limited production capacity, for example, you need to adapt that to your market and choose perhaps a small niche market for that product. Possibly your ambition is not to export a huge amount because these are cultural products. It's not a mass market. So you need to choose very, very carefully the products and the market that you want to reach and make sure that you can deliver. Perhaps, for example, with agricultural products, this summer, weather in our area in France has not been, well, the summer was good, but the spring was very wet and very cold. And this is a problem for the wine growers, the grape growers. And so our harvest this year is going to be much smaller. It's quite a good quality, luckily, but it's going to be much smaller. And last year, already that was the case. So when you are working with natural products, with agriculture, you also need to take this into account in your strategy. So, how do you go about creating products with added value? You may be asking yourself that question right now. You need to perhaps think about your special products and how you can improve them. You also need to perhaps reflect on your archives. Maybe you have some precious products in the history of your company that you're no longer using. But if you think about it, they may be of special interest to people from far away. You could also work with a designer. Designers are very helpful in helping to make your products more understandable, more easy to understand. That's their job, is to make it very clear what an object is for. You need to think about how you're going to reach out to target these cultures that you have chosen. There are two strategies that come to mind in this case. The first one depends on whether your product is unique to you. Maybe unique to you, it may be your own techniques, could be traditional techniques, but this gives you quite a lot of leeway for developing new products. You can choose to develop a new product. This example here is a glass and wood sculpture which is made by a young couple from the city of Nantes. You remember the elephant. And these young people initially they were making kitchen cupboards, and they were very luxurious kitchens, but they developed for their idea of going to export markets a different product. This is a sculpture, so it's more of a decorative product using glass and wood. I'll tell you more about them a little bit later. You may have another case, which is that your product is unique to your place and unique to your culture, and you can't change that product. So this is a different situation. You don't want to change the wine for a new market. You have to bring the new market to understand your product. You have to create depth in your communication. You have to create different levels, tell stories about the way you use this product in your culture, the ways that you appreciate the product, the history. All of these things are very important. So, this is a big question. Where is that audience for you? How do you find your audience? This is where the internet, again, is very useful. It helps you to identify prospects. You can do a lot of work before you start on the internet identifying prospects. It also helps you to make qualified contacts with people that you think will be interested in your products. I prepared quite a busy slide for you here. Working with small businesses, often people are not used to using the internet in this way. It is very time-consuming. That is a problem. But however, it can also be particularly rewarding. Let me explain this slide a little bit. I've tried to group these different social media websites into groups. The one in the center is like a sort of a visiting card. It enables you to collect together, to aggregate all your different web situations where you will be found on the internet, which is quite important. It helps you to establish your identity. You also have a lot of websites now. People do a lot of sharing of content. We were talking about that in the previous example, sharing content. It's very important, and there are a certain number of websites where you can upload pictures, create links to your websites, which are very important. And it goes very fast, and sometimes you can create a buzz on the internet in a very short time. You also have very important possibilities to test markets and to develop markets using the internet. And I think this afternoon we will be hearing more about a very important example of that kind of a marketplace. There are different marketplaces for different types of products, and that's something that you can use to test an idea in a certain country in a quite economic way. You also have ways of creating depth in your communication about your products. A lot of companies use blogging to do that, and it's interesting to see even very tiny companies making wine in France will have a blog that will be telling you what is happening in the vineyard at different times of years. It's very useful to develop that kind of presence on the internet. And, of course, the very important thing is also to be able to connect and communicate with new prospects, but also with your customers, to create customer loyalty. That's also a very important thing. And the wonderful thing about that is you can do that all from your desk here in Taiwan. Another important thing is to be able to visit places. Now, obviously, you can't visit all the places that you'd like to, but when you have found what you think is a very promising area to visit for you, then it's very, very profitable to go there and walk around and try and find places that reflect your values, that you could perhaps find a place for your products. In France, we often have organizations that will take groups of companies to visit places to find out what they are like before they start really developing business there. Now, this is also something which is very important for me. Can you imagine your product all the way on the other side of the world on a shelf in a store? What does it have to say for itself? How is it going to speak and make contact with the people there? I've chosen this little example, which is from Japan. I found this on the internet. It is a packaging for milk. That's easy to see because the bottle is see-through, so you can see the milk in the packaging. You can also see that the company making this milk has a natural approach. They've used a paper cover. Everything is very simple. But what is strange is you look at the bottle and you think, why have they got trees on the front of a bottle of milk? It's not something that we are used to. And of course, it appears when you do further research that this milk is made with milk from cows that graze in a forest. And also, you can see that the people who make this product believe it to be a valuable product because they have taken the time to make a little booklet to tell you more about why it is important. This is a different product. This is a product from the Loire Valley, and it's a new product. It was made with a group of bakers and artisan bakers and chocolate makers that worked together for over a year to develop a new chocolate, which they called blanc de sable, which is white sand. They are making reference to their area. This is sandbanks on the Loire Valley that you can see here at the bottom. The other important element about this area is they grow a lot of soft fruit. You can see the berries. That is a big activity there. So they were inspired to make this chocolate, which is white chocolate like the color of the sand, with a strawberry puree filling on a basis of praline, which is made from nuts, sort of crunchy chocolate at the bottom of the chocolate. It's delicious. But the reason I brought you this picture here is you can see that they also spent time in how they present this delicious product. They had special molds made for the chocolate to create the movement of the sandbanks. And they made a packaging which has pictures of the sandbank, but also of the agricultural flower growing in the local area. And they've also written about the product on the box. That's an example for me of a product that can speak for itself when it's on the shelf. You need to think very hard about how you present your products, because consumers internationally have very high standards, and the major brands spend a lot of time and money on developing their packaging. You have to compete with that, so you need to think very carefully how to do it. Sometimes it can be very simple reply, like the bottle of milk that we saw earlier, and sometimes it's a little bit more complex. You have to take into account how things will keep and how they will travel. Okay, now I'm just going to give you the example of wine. Wine is an interesting example maybe for you here in Taiwan, because I think it has a lot of similarities with the tea culture. This is just to give you an idea of how the market for wine is changing rapidly. Wine is now becoming a really global product, and people are drinking wine now all over the world. But markets have different maturity. That's a very important element to take into account. This is a map of global wine consumption in 2006. I believe that it's becoming out of date because wine is progressing very rapidly here in this area of the world, and China is becoming a new important market for wine products. But in this case, you can see the darker colors are the countries where the inhabitants drink the most wine. So you can see that in the traditional areas of wine producing, it's very dark. you can also see there's in South Africa has an old tradition of wine, which is partly due to French Protestants leaving France in the 18th century to, because of religious wars, to live in South Africa, and they developed vineyards there. So there is a big wine culture in that part of the world. And then you can see other areas which are progressing in different ways. It's very important that you take into account for a product that is culturally complex, like wine, the maturity of the market. There are some wines that it's easy to sell in new markets, and other wines are more sophisticated, and they need to find a clientele that is going to be able to understand them, that is already familiar with wine. When you first taste wine, it can be quite a strange thing to drink. It's actually an acquired taste, and young people who are used to drinking a lot of sweet drinks and sodas, they may find it very unpalatable the first time that they try it. So you need to be able to educate your clients about the product. That was a little background about wine. This is about the Loire Valley wines. It's important to understand about the wines from our area. There are a huge range of wines, an enormous amount of diversity. That is actually one of the qualities of wine, is the incredible way that the vines will adapt to different areas and produce different effects. If you look at this slide here, all those different areas are different types of soil and conditions that make different spirits of wine, different types of wine. But inside each of those areas, there are 5 or 6 different wines: red, pink, sparkling, rosé. So you have a huge amount of variety. Another thing which is important about Loire Valley wines is that there are very many small producers. So small producers of wine, they need to concentrate on mature markets where there's already understanding of why they are special, and they also need to target niche markets, not to try and do too much. They can't export huge quantities, they're limited in their production. And they also need to cultivate intermediaries like wine waiters and people who are selling in specialty stores, have them come and visit so that they can give them a maximum amount of information about why their particular production is special. Because, of course, everybody's is different, and so everybody's is the most special wine. That can be quite hard work. This is just a picture of a vine, and you'll see a little tiny space in the top of that, and that is a hole in the wall. This is from a heritage vineyard in Saumur, and this vine is growing through a hole in the wall so that its feet are in the cool northern side and the grapes are developing on the southern side. This is actually, the walls in this vineyard are a national monument. That is an important element for that small company, which is an association, to build on when they are promoting their product abroad particularly. I wanted to present a case study. This is Atelier Polyèdre, which are a young couple of very talented ceramic designers from the city of Nantes again. They have a particularly whimsical, fun approach to ceramics, but they also use traditional techniques. And their game, if you like, is to push these techniques to the very to create their own problems that they have to solve. So they experiment a lot. Now, they were very interested in, because they have a lot of humor in their products, and because they enjoy using words that have 2 senses, that we call them puns in English. They were very attracted to the British market. When we first spoke about how they wanted to develop internationally, they were attracted by the British market. And it turned out at that particular time, they had a project to make mugs. They make a lot of other things, but in this case, they were making mugs. And their idea was to make mugs with 100 different handles. Each time, there would be a different handle on the mug and a series of mugs with that handle. I have to say that this company makes all of their products by hand in their studio. This is a selection of those mugs. Now, you will see that we gave them a name, Mug Shot. Now, what was interesting is because we were targeting the British market, in Britain, everybody has a tea mug or a coffee mug. And it's a very personal item. If you look inside a cupboard in a kitchen in the UK, you will see lots of different mugs, and everybody has their own. So it's a personal item. The fun thing about the word mug is it's also a slang word for somebody's face, which is also something very personal and individual. And the mug shot, even further, is actually what you call in slang a picture of a criminal from this side and this side before he is imprisoned. So that is the other sense of mugshot. So we decided to use press relations. Press relations can be very, very helpful. These young men managed to get high awareness of their products through press relations. So we spend a lot of time talking about the product and the project and explaining their thought process and why they have made this particular thing. So it was important that we look into the packaging. And so we made labels for the mugs with pictures to show you that there are lots of different types, and this is the kind that it is. They also used something, numbering, which is also a good way of showing the value of the item because it's a limited edition. So they numbered them. And this is how they were developing the packaging. It was very good because they had a lot of success. They went to a London trade fair called 100% Design, and they had a lot of success there with their products. And they were, in the end, chosen by the Paul Smith brand, which you may have heard of, which for their Christmas shop. So they ended up selling a lot of mugs, and they were happy to be appreciated by that brand in the UK, which shares a lot of their values. This young lady is Nelly Bichet, and she makes hats. This is a picture of her workshop where she makes hats using traditional millinery techniques. Now, Nelly was also interested in going to the British market because in France, women usually only wear hats for important days in their lives, for weddings and ceremonies. Whereas in the UK, hats are very popular in lots of occasions. So we decided that it would be good for her to target the British market. Now, she did 2 trade shows, which she was helped to do in the Loire region. The local government helps companies to go financially to go to trade shows in different places. They also help them with consulting and advice before they go. And Nelly did 2 of these trade shows. But she found it was quite difficult to emerge in a fashion trade show with her hats. And so we decided to use a different strategy. Because the UK is not too far away, we decided to go and target individual stores that would be her ideal customers. And that has also proved to be very profitable for her. And it meant that she was able to understand their needs more and then to develop items that are particularly good for sales in their stores. So that's about hat culture. This is one of her hats. Now, last year I spent some time coaching a group of young designers like Nelly. Nelly is one of them, 6 young women designers from the Loire Valley region that make accessories, fashion accessories, but they make fashion accessories based on textiles. There isn't any leather involved in these fashion accessories. So you have 6 different companies. Nelly Bichet, who makes hats. Lulu Bell is making felt She makes felt and she makes items out of felt. Kahina makes spats. Spats are, I think, accessories for shoes, to protect your shoes, but she makes them in very pretty fabrics. Elle is making scarves like this, but for men. And Faustine makes jewelry out of fabrics and feathers. And Christelle Creations makes braces, suspenders with fabrics. Now, we spent a lot of time talking together about strategy for export and development, which was helpful in itself for the companies to exchange this information. It's very good if you can work together in that way. But as the time went on, we discovered that they had similar markets and they had similar needs, but also they got on very well. And they were all very passionate about textiles, so they decided to make a collection together for the export market, specifically. And so they created Carré de Six, which is like a kind of umbrella brand for their products. What is quite interesting here is they've used photography in their catalog to talk about where they come from. They have a picture of a picnic with young people outside a chateau in the Loire Valley. And they showed a lot of the interior historical context. They also used fabrics that talk about that kind of environment. And they did their very first show in Paris at Maison et Objets, which is a very big trade show. And it was quite successful. And now they are going to share an export manager, commercial person, and they also plan to take their collection to Germany, to Ambiente, which is another trade show in Germany. Okay. How do you go about it? This is time to resume everything. Take time to research. Try and understand the cultures that attract you. Try and find out. Also, you can speak to your friends, family, and other contacts about their experiences of traveling and whether or not they have seen places that would be good places for your products. You need to create meaningful products. You need to have, they need to have explanations. They need to have stories. And you need to make these stories connect with your target audience. You might, for example, imagine that if you are making glasses, that you might decide with a particular technique here from Taiwan to make a wine glass, which might be unfamiliar to the public, to the people that you send it to, but it will create a bond, a link with them. The young couple that I showed you, the sculpture in the beginning, the glass and wood sculpture, they actually did a lot of research on the internet, and they connected completely through Facebook. Through Facebook, they connected with an artist in China, a glass artist. And about a year later of exchanging with him, they were invited to an international exhibition of glass in, I think it was in Shanghai, I'm not sure exactly which city. And they ended up in the auction selling their sculptures to China. They did all of that with Facebook. So, you need to tell an authentic, unique story about your products. Your product, yourself as a creator. You need to help them stand out in a crowd in the packaging. You need to also think about following up with your customer services and adapt your business culture to create confidence with new clients. You need to connect and communicate using the internet to promote your customer loyalty. I would just like to say, to finish this conference, that I'm here today because I strongly believe that these cultural products have a role to play in the world today. I believe that they're valuable, and I also believe that they were a good way, sharing these products is a good way to promote peace and prosperity in the world. So I do hope that my talk will inspire you to share your wonderful products from Taiwan. Thank you.